Okay, let's dive right in. Have you ever found yourself maybe drafting an email or a really critical report, or maybe prepping for a big presentation and suddenly felt that tiny, tiny flicker of doubt, not really about your ideas, but how you're expressing them? That little moment where you wonder, okay, hang on, am I being clear enough? Is this really getting across the exact nuance I need it to? It's a pretty common challenge, I think, for professionals just about everywhere. So today we're taking a deep dive into mastering effective business English grammar and sentence structure. Our source for this is a really fantastic booklet I found from Doing Business in English, and it's designed specifically, it seems, to boost your confidence and clarity in those professional interactions. Our mission today really is to cut through some of the noise, maybe bypass the dry textbook stuff, and pull out the most, well, strategic insights from this material. We want to help you understand not just what the rules are necessarily, but why they're such crucial tools for making an impact in, the fast-paced business world. Think of it like a shortcut maybe to using language with real precision and power. So, okay, we all kind of know grammar matters, right? But in business, where speed often feels like everything, where's the actual payoff? For spending time on the finer points of English grammar and sentence structure, what's the strategic advantage beyond just avoiding those red squiggly lines in your Word doc?
Right. And that's exactly where this booklet really shines, I think. It cuts straight to the tangible, the real-world career advantages. It frames strong grammar and sentence structure not as like some academic chore, but as a direct path to unlocking really significant professional opportunities. I mean, just imagine your ideas being consistently understood first time, your proposals landing with maximum impact, or say your negotiations closing with absolute clarity. The material actually points out that professionals who have this kind of linguistic precision, they're far more likely to be put forward for engagement with key clients, global stakeholders, cross-cultural colleagues too, because when your language is sharp, when it's precise, you just inherently project authority, competence.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just about, making a good first impression. It actually builds deep trust and confidence with, well, everyone you interact with. And that's your competitive edge,
Yeah.
really. And it's also a critical safeguard against those painful, sometimes costly misunderstandings that can completely derail projects or, damage your reputation.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Clarity builds trust, definitely. Okay, let's maybe start by looking at something pretty foundational, but it can surprisingly trip up even, experienced professionals. The
hmm
tenses, we all learned them back in school, didn't we? But how do they specifically enable that kind of precision in business communication, especially when you're talking about complex sequences of events?
Well, the ability to accurately locate actions in time, it's just non-negotiable in business, isn't it? And while, sure, basic communication often uses just a few common tenses, the booklet really zeroes in on the advanced application for roles,
hmm
particularly, it says, in management. I mean, think about it.
Yeah.
Explaining what has happened, what is currently happening, what will happen with absolute clarity. This isn't just about, like, a timeline. It's about establishing accountability, cause and effect, nailing down precise project milestones. And the real power, as the source really emphasizes, comes from using different tenses, sometimes within the same sentence. Now, this isn't just showing off your grammar skills, it's a strategic tool. For instance, maybe explaining how the market shift had impacted our product launch, which was already underway. Say,
Okay.
you're instantly showing which action happened first, maybe how long it lasted, and its influence on something else happening at the same time. Without that nuanced understanding of tenses, that critical connection, it just becomes ambiguous. It opens the door right up to misinterpretation.
Got it.
It's really about synchronizing events
Yeah.
and demonstrating those complex relationships clearly.
Okay, so tenses help us nail down when things happened and their relationship in time. Makes sense. But what about the overall shape of our message? How do we string those precise moments together into something that's clear, concise, and impactful?
That kind of brings us to sentence structure, doesn't it? The booklet suggests knowing sentence types helps you become more concise and clearer. So how does understanding these structures, translate into better business outcomes? Yeah, this is really where we learn to craft our thoughts for maximum effect. The booklet breaks down sentences into three core types, and each one has a distinct sort of strategic purpose. First up, simple sentences. Think of these as your power statements. They're just a single independent clause, one complete thought, like the CEO approved the budget, or customers responded positively.
Mm.
Exactly. Concise, direct. Excellent for delivering really impactful statements or clear calls to action. Use them when you need to be absolutely, well, unequivocal.
Yeah.
Then next we have compound sentences. Now these elegantly combine two or more independent clauses, usually with a linking word like and, but,
Yeah.
or. They're perfect for showing related ideas that carry, equal weight. Creates a smoother, more connected narrative flow. For example, Bob created the presentation and Jane delivered it successfully.
Okay.
See how that shows a clear link between two distinct but equally important actions? It's just a more sophisticated way to convey related information than, say, two separate, simple sentences might be. And then there are the highly versatile complex sentences. Now, these are your real workhorses for showing relationships, think cause and effect, contrast, conditions, timing. They have at least one dependent clause linked to an independent clause. The example they give is, while we were finalizing the go-to-market strategy, our competitor surprisingly launched a similar product.
Ah, right. The while makes the connection explicit.
Exactly. It immediately establishes that temporal relationship, maybe even a causal link,
Yeah.
without needing extra explanation. Mastering complex sentences lets you build really sophisticated arguments, frame conditions clearly, or explain intricate scenarios, which is, crucial for strategic documents, detailed proposals, or even those nuanced client conversations where you're comparing options or outlining dependencies.
Yeah, that's a really great way to think about them, not just grammar rules, but actual strategic tools.
Yeah.
Useful. Okay, now let's talk about choosing your voice. Active or passive. The source kind of implies this isn't just about style, is it? It's about projecting confidence, setting a professional tone, and even maybe subtly managing responsibility. Where does the booklet guide us on making that choice?
This is actually a fascinating area because the quote-unquote best choice,
Hmm.
it's heavily influenced by the situation, the culture, even the specific business sector you're in. In most everyday business speech, general communication, the active voice, usually comes across as more confident, direct, open. When you say, our team achieved record sales, it's super clear who did the action.
Right.
It feels assertive, transparent. However, the booklet points out that the passive voice, for example, record sales were achieved by our team, or even just record sales were achieved, is incredibly common and often preferred in fields like legal, finance, or in very formal reports.
Okay, why is that?
Well, it's often seen as more formal, more professional. It helps maintain objectivity, creates a more neutral tone. And it can also be strategically useful when you want to shift the focus from the person doing it to the action itself. Or, yes, even subtly sidestep pointing direct blame in maybe delicate situations.
Yeah, I can see that.
But you have to be mindful of the downsides, too. The passive voice can sometimes sound a bit impersonal. It can make sentences longer. And critically, it can make communication unclear by leaving out the subject. Leaving you wondering, okay, but who actually did that? So it's really not about one being inherently better. It's about making a deliberate, informed choice based on your purpose, your audience, and the impact you want to have.
Yeah.
Do you need to highlight the actor or the action? Do you need objectivity or do you need direct accountability? It depends.
That distinction, yeah, between highlighting the actor or the action and the strategic use of each. That's a really valuable insight.
Definitely. Beyond just stating facts, how do we add those layers? Politeness, possibilities, specific conditions, especially in delicate interactions or maybe negotiations. That's where modal verbs and conditionals come in, right? And the source highlights how essential they are.
Exactly. If you want to move beyond just, transmitting basic information to actually influencing outcomes and building relationships, modal verbs are kind of your unsung heroes. These small words like can, could, should, might, would, they're incredibly mighty. They communicate a huge range of meanings. Everything from necessity and obligation to those crucial shades of politeness and possibility.
And using them effectively can profoundly improve business relationships because they soften requests, they make suggestions more palatable, they clarify requirements without sounding, authoritarian. Just consider the examples from the booklet. Instead of a blunt, send the proposal, a simple, could you send over your order proposal this week, please?
Yeah.
Completely transforms it into a polite, well-received request.
Much better.
Right. Or for self-guidance, instead of I will learn SQL, maybe I should learn SQL to improve my technical skills. It conveys a commitment, but it's softer than a hard declaration. These subtle shifts in wording, they really reflect a high degree of sort of emotional intelligence, influencing how your message actually lands. And then, of course, we have conditionals, equally vital for clarity, for persuasiveness. Especially when you're outlining scenarios, setting terms, negotiating deals. They help you express ideas about situations and possibilities, letting you clearly define consequences based on certain actions or inactions. The booklet really emphasizes that using them effectively improves decision-making and builds trust simply because everyone understands the precise parameters of an agreement or a plan.
Right? Everyone's on the same page. And it's not just about the classic if statements, is it? I think the source mentions some more powerful alternatives for those high stakes conversations.
Absolutely. Yeah, don't just get stuck on if.
Mhm.
The booklet introduces some really powerful alternatives and conditional linkers. Things like as long as, in case, provided that, and unless.
Mm.
These are incredibly useful, especially for managers and professionals when you're setting expectations, defining project scope, or outlining contractual terms. Take, for instance, unless I sign the order this week, the price will be increased.
Very clear.
Super clear, right? It states a precise condition and its direct consequence. Invaluable in contract discussions, project planning, really any interaction where clear, unambiguous terms are absolutely paramount. It lets you build these robust, precise frameworks for understanding and agreement.
Okay, wow. So after diving into tenses for timing, sentence structure for shaping arguments, voice for strategic impact, and then modals and conditionals for nuance and negotiation, what does this all mean for your personal journey, for the listener's journey in business English? It might feel like, well, quite a lot to absorb all at once.
Yeah, and it's important to acknowledge that. Mastering grammar and sentence structure, it isn't an overnight sprint. It really is more of a marathon. The booklet makes it very clear. You can't just learn it in a hurry. However, much like, say, building physical fitness at a gym, a lot can be achieved through regular disciplined work.
Consistency.
Exactly. Many successful learners, it says, commit to just maybe 15 to 30 minutes every day, focusing on specific learning tasks, and they achieve really remarkable results over time. It's all about continuous focused improvement, shifting your perception of grammar from, a set of rigid rules you have to follow to seeing it as a powerful, versatile toolkit for precision, for influence, and for gaining a real strategic advantage in your career.
What a fantastic deep dive into the practical strategic power of business English grammar and sentence structure. We've really peeled back the layers, haven't we, to see how precision in tenses, clarity in sentence structure, making that right choice between active and passive voice, and employing nuanced modal verbs and conditionals, they aren't just academic points at all. They are real, tangible drivers of professional success. They foster understanding, they build deep trust, and ultimately, they can open doors to new, exciting opportunities.
Absolutely. Ultimately, effective grammar is about far more than just, avoiding red squiggly lines. It's about deliberately shaping perception. It's about demonstrating competence and asserting your professional voice with confidence. So maybe consider this as you go forward. How might just a subtle conscious shift in your sentence structure next time, or perhaps a more deliberate choice of a modal verb, how might that not just convey information a bit better, but also maybe profoundly influence trust or open a critical door to a new opportunity? Or maybe even prevent a costly misunderstanding in your very next important business interaction. It's a skill that truly empowers